You're listening to Emerson Whitner's NXT Report on the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
I'm dreaming of an NXT report for Wednesday, December 23rd. They were still in London. Sami Zayn was back, and the crowd, they didn't care for much. I'm dreaming of a best of show that will air the next 2 weeks from now. May your weeks be filled with my songs. On second thought, I should stop singing now. Welcome to your NXT audio update for Wednesday, December 23rd, 2015. My name is Emerson Whitner of both AngryMarks.com and WrestlingOutsiders.com. Quick plug, if you're listening to me on Angry Marks, go check out WrestlingOutsiders.com. 100% free wrestling and MMA podcasts 100% of the time, including yesterday, the first annual WOP Awards. And with that out of the way, let's get into NXT. This was the show that was taped last week in London, with the first two matches being taped before TakeOver, and the main event, for some strange, odd, unknown reason, being taped after Samoa Joe and Finn Balor. But we'll get to that here in a minute. Starting off with a four-way tag team match. It was the Vaudevillains, the Hype Bros, Blake and Murphy, and Jason Jordan and Chad Gable. The fans in London did not give two craps about anybody on this show except for Sami Zayn, Jason Jordan, and Chad Gable. And to be fair, they only cared about Jason Jordan because he was Gable's partner. The fans went wild for Jordan and Gable. To be fair, they did react for both the Vaudevillains, who came out dressed like Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson, and they also kind of liked the Hype Bros, but they quickly turned on them. Specifically, they turned on the Hype Bros when Chad Gable's in the ring doing stuff, and Mojo Rawley blind tagged himself in. That was the worst thing Mojo Rawley could ever have done. This match was 95% Chad Gable, just because anytime he wasn't in the ring, the fans just did not care and just were chanting for Gable the whole time. So they made up for it by having Gable be the guy that they beat on for the whole time. We got an excellent time spot as Gable's crawling for the tag. And in fact, you'll probably never see a more perfectly timed attempt at a hot tag ever. Gable's crawling, leaps for the hot tag, and just seconds before he would come in contact with Jordan, Jordan gets yanked off the apron. It reminded me, believe it or not, of Sid and Hulk Hogan that time, when Sid, and perhaps the only right thing he ever did in his career, was jump off the apron at the exact perfect time to prevent Hulk Hogan from tagging him. So Jordan, of course, did get his hot tag. We got an 8-way free-for-all. After depositing the other 5 on the outside, Gable pinned Blake with their move where Jordan throws Blake up into the air, and on the way down, Gable catches him and hits him with a bridging back suplex for the win. We went to last week when Emma was being worked on after her match with Asuka. Dana was in there complaining about what she would do to Asuka when Asuka, of course, walked in. Asuka mocked Dana by patting her on the head and then did the old Emma dance. And then Dana waited for Asuka to leave the room to talk about how this wasn't over and that she would get her revenge on Asuka. We got a video package for the entire UK tour, followed by a Ty Dillinger promo backstage. He's a heel this week. Honestly, he may always be a heel, but he never comes across this way. But anyway, tonight he's going to show Sami Zayn why he is the Perfect 10. The Drifter Elias Sampson was on his way, and this time, as he's walking towards debuting on NXT, he was literally walking on railroad tracks. So maybe Nia Jax would have gotten to NXT quicker than the 9 weeks it took her if she would have walked on the railroad tracks. Next week, they announced, is the Best of NXT 2015 Part 1. So it appears the next 2 weeks are just going to be best of shows, and will be skippable, but they should at least be fun. Baron Corbin is happy he beat Apollo Crews and declared himself the number one contender and uncrowned NXT champion. We then got the re-debut of the Drifter Elias Sampson as he defeated the svelte Bull Dempsey. Bull Dempsey has a new theme song, but he has kept his Dr. Death Steve Williams / Michael Elgin robe, and he now weighs in at a slim, trim 299 3/4 pounds, which was completely ignored by the announcers. You know, I want to point out I was only joking every time we called Elias Sampson the Drifter as his nickname. Well, now it's his actual nickname. So someone in NXT obviously listens to my awesome audio reports, and they assigned it to him. Everyone's eyes can roll now. The crowd was dead for 99% of it when Elias Sampson made the dumbest move of his life as the crowd just began making a little bit of noise. They sensed the finish was coming, so they started making a little bit of noise when Elias Sampson put his finger to his lips to shut them up. Note to Elias, when you have a match and the crowd's completely dead for it, don't tell them to shut up when they start making noise. But anyway, he hit a diving elbow drop, which looked really good, and picked up the win. And after the match, he pretended to play guitar to the tune of his theme song, and literally no one cared. Dash and Dawson wished Enzo and Cass a happy holidays. I want to point out that was so nice of them after the way they broke Collins' leg once and tried to break it a second time. And then in the main event, Sami Zayn returned after 7 months of being out of action to defeat Ty Dillinger. Sami was last seen at NXT TakeOver Unstoppable in May, where his match with then NXT champion Kevin Owens ended in a ref stoppage when he was given the pop-up powerbomb on the ring apron. Of course, he was injured when he tried to psych up the fans before his match with John Cena, which I'm not sure what the worst injury of 2015 was, that or when Randy Orton got injured taking the garbage out. I missed a lot about Sami, even his theme song, which is weird since I bought his theme song off iTunes a year ago, so in theory I could have listened to it at literally any time. The fans actually sang Sami's theme song, which, in case you haven't heard it lately, is just an instrumental theme song. There's no words to sing, but they sang it. The fans went absolutely nuts for Sami Zayn's entrance, and in fact all of Sami Zayn, but they died when Ty Dillinger took over. This was actually taped, like I said before, after the TakeOver show last week, which is weird, and let it be known that in December of 2015, in 2015, Ty Dillinger's match happened after Finn Balor and Samoa Joe's match, which leads us to the random trivia of the day. So if you think that's weird, that Ty Dillinger was put out after Finn versus Joe, I want you to go back into the Wayback Machine to 1989 during the famous series of matches of Ric Flair and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Those two never finished the show. What, you say? That's right, because at the Chi-Town Rumble, for some strange, odd, unknown reason, WCW did a Kendall Windham versus Steve Casey match that went 25 minutes, where the entire crowd basically emptied out, and no one, not even Dave Meltzer, stuck around to watch. And later the story was that everyone was celebrating backstage and completely forgot that the match was happening in the ring and never sent them the cue to go home. I can only imagine how bad that match was. Allegedly, they did. I believe they were going to show it on the next Saturday night show, but I could be wrong there. At Clash of the Champions 6, after Flair versus Steamboat, they taped Sting versus Rip Morgan and Lex Luger versus Jack Victory of all people. These matches all went on after Ric Flair versus Ricky Steamboat. And then at Wrestle War 89, after Terry Funk gave Ric Flair a piledriver through a table, the Road Warriors wrestled Mike Rotundo and Steve Williams, and then Eddie Gilbert and Rick Steiner took on Kevin Sullivan and Dan Spivey. So suddenly, Ty Dillinger isn't such a bad way to close the match or close the show. But despite that, I like to assume that somebody somewhere cared what Kendall Windham and Steve Casey were doing, because literally nobody cared about anything Ty Dillinger did up until the very finish of the match, where they actually bought for a very brief moment that Dillinger was going to win with a super kick. But no, Sami Zayn kicked out. Zayn hit all of his moves, including the Blue Thunder Bomb, the T-Bone Suplex into the corner, and then won with the Haluva kick. And after the match, Sami took the mic, very happily proclaimed that he was back. Sami stated that he's had a series of disappointments in 2015 between losing the title to Kevin Owens and injuring himself versus Cena, but the trend is broken tonight. Sami put over the crowd, saying more and more great things will happen with NXT in 2016, and finished things off by promising that he himself will have a great 2016. So that's going to do it here for NXT, the show after TakeOver. Thank you to everyone who stuck around after my amazing first 42 seconds there of the show where I sang. I want to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas. I will be back next week, to talk about Best of NXT, unless, I decide to take way too much time and edit the Best of NXT audio recaps for next week, which would take a lot longer than 12 minutes. So in that case, I'll be back with Best of shows. With the Best of shows. Check out WrestlingOutsiders.com, MMA Monday, the Wrestling Outsiders podcast. Tomorrow is the Emerson and Lauren Christmas show. Check it all out. Thank you all for listening, and I'll talk to you again next week.
You're listening to Emerson Whitner's NXT Report on the Angry Marks Podcast Network.